So are you fearful or anxious or even just a little worried about the future? Let's do some EFT on that. Hey everybody, it's GP Walsh. I'm an EFT guy. And the fear of the future is much more rampant today than ever before. I remember when I was a kid growing up, there was just this belief, at least in my country, the United States, that life was always going to be better for the next generation than it was the generation before. It was a very popular idea. It wasn't actually that old. I was born in 1952, and that idea only started being popular after World War II. It didn't exist before that. But there was this idea that there was just going to be this unlimited material growth forever and forever and forever. And well, we've seen that that hasn't worked. And we're all feeling a little bit about, well, what's happening? Where is the world actually going to? How stable is it? How safe do I feel? And most of us don't feel particularly safe. We're unsure about the future, and there's nothing the human being likes less than being uncertain about its future. When we're uncertain about the future, we become very easy to manipulate. Anybody who promises you safety, you'll be listening to. And they do it all the time in products and advertising and marketing, and especially in politics and politicians. Oh, they're going to promise you safety. Of course, they can't deliver it. But that's a whole other story. But we go for that all the time. Why don't we go directly into that sense of the fear of the future and tap on it, using the power of EFT and meridian tapping to kind of get to the heart of the fear and allow that energy to move through the system. I practice a thing that I call MasterHEART EFT, which is slightly different. Actually, in some ways, it's dramatically different. In terms of form, it's the same. And in terms of the context and the approach, it's very, very different. The first thing I always do is I just completely take the side of the fear. You know, we've all been taught to resist our fears and anxieties and all that. Push it away and hope that it's going to go away. Of course, it never does, we've noticed. But that's the approach that we take. So the approach that I take instead is to create an atmosphere, an internal atmosphere that is so inviting. It is just so easy to be in that the fear that we've been pushing away has an opportunity to actually come out in the light of day. As long as there is resistance towards whatever we're feeling, that feeling is just going to hang out there. It's going to morph. It's going to take different forms. There's no way to get beyond your fears except to go through them. This is a deep and a very old spiritual insight and principle. The beautiful advantage today is because of tools and techniques like inner reconciliation and EFT, the road through those deep fears, that road through hell, doesn't have to involve the same degree of suffering. Matter of fact, it can be experienced with no suffering whatsoever. And that's what we're here to do. So let's do a round of tapping on the fear of the future. And I'm going to start by I'm going to invite you to drop all your resistance. I'm going to invite you to just take the position of this fear and assume that this fear is the absolute truth. That in fact, there isn't anything worth anything. There are no guarantees, and the future is pretty bleak. Trust me, it may sound very negative at first, but just watch what happens. So let's start with the traditional EFT. Well, I do the traditional form of EFT right from Gary Craig. So even though I am really afraid of the future, and I have good reason to be, the future really is uncertain. The only smart position is to be afraid. I deeply and profoundly love and accept myself anyway. So even though the future is bleak, and doesn't show any signs of improving. As a matter of fact, exactly the opposite. I totally own everything that I'm feeling and accept it as legitimate. So even though I'm really afraid of the future, anybody with half a brain would be, I'm totally allowing myself to feel this. It makes perfect sense. And I'm going to just love and accept myself anyway. Let's tap to the points. The future is bleak. I don't see how anything's going to change. I'm holding on for dear life. I'm squeezing very tightly what I have. Somebody's going to come and take it away. I don't feel safe. How could I? There is no safety. It's not a safe future waiting for us. There might have been once, but it's totally gone now. Of course I'm afraid of the future. Of course I'm afraid of not knowing what's going to happen. Of course I don't see much help or hope. This is the way it is. I'm just going to hunker down here and hope things get better. Because I don't have any control over them. Let's stop. Take a deep breath. Now I want you to notice how that feels. Fear of the future. The future is hopeless. Give it up. It really is bleak. But notice by saying that, by putting it out there, by taking the position that's true, and then feeding your body this extra energy through touch, that is EFT, notice how different it feels. How true does it feel now that the future is really grim? Does it feel a little less true? All right, let's open up the energy a little bit more. So even though the future is bleak, I'm open to the possibility that it could get better. Even though I totally doubt that it will, I can let in the possibility. And whether it does or not, I love and accept myself just the way I am. So even though the future doesn't look very good, maybe my feelings about it have something to do with it. Maybe there's a place in me that's less afraid. So even though it does look pretty bleak, probably is bleak, probably isn't any hope, I totally accept all of my feelings and am open to something else. All right, let's tap through the points now. The future really is gloomy. There isn't any hope. Well, more accurately, I don't see any hope. Maybe there is evidence there, and I'm just not seeing it. That is possible. In fact, it's likely. I'm certainly open to seeing hope. If it happened, if something really great happened, I'd let it. I wouldn't stop it. Yes, there's a lot to be afraid of. There's a lot of things that aren't going very well. I really wish they were different. But I really want a sense of freedom. I don't want my sense of well-being so hopelessly tied to my circumstances. Maybe I contribute more to this than I thought. Maybe I do have more power than I thought. Maybe some of this fear isn't really necessary. Maybe some of it isn't even real. How much of this is just my perception? I'm totally open to seeing a different way. I'm really open to having my nervous system find evidence that it didn't see before. I know such things are possible. I've had my perception shift before. Maybe I don't have to be so afraid of the future. Maybe there's way more evidence than I thought. Maybe there isn't, and I totally accept it. But what if there is? Stop, take a deep breath. Now notice, I'm not trying to change anything. I'm not trying to reframe it. I'm not trying to shift views. I'm not trying to visualize. All I'm doing is introducing a possibility. Possibilities, as long as they don't challenge the status quo, are often welcome by even the most resistant nervous system. So now let's do another round and really open ourselves all the way. Open ourselves up to a much bigger possibility and actually engage the energy system into proactively looking for it. Don't need to tap on this is going right to the points. The future probably is hopeless. But I'm open to the possibility that it's not. Maybe I'm just not seeing it. I've been so convinced that things were just bad, even feeling a little arrogant. Like I knew they were bad. How can all these people do these stupid things? I wonder what I've been contributing to all of this. Certainly my judgment and criticism and arrogance isn't contributing anything of value. I totally own that. So I'm going to do something different now. I don't really know if there's great things out there or not. So I'm going to instruct my nervous system to find out. Let's find out the truth. If there's no hope, okay. We'll totally crawl back into the closet and hope for a better day that may never come. But let's look. Let's consciously look. My nervous system is a remarkable tool. I know you have been keeping me safe 24/7 my entire life. I know you've been trained to make certain assumptions about things. I'm inviting you to question those very assumptions. If they're true, great. But if they're not true, maybe we can let in this fresh evidence and let go of some, maybe all of this fear. I'm giving you permission to open up and look. Show me what you find. Lock me down if there's something really dangerous. But open me up if there isn't. I know you can do this. You've been so loyal in taking care of me. For my whole life, you've kept me safe. Thank you for everything you've done for me. Thank you for being so loyal to me. Thank you for being my greatest ally. Thank you. I love you. Take a nice deep breath. And now just notice how you feel. And I want you to notice that there was absolutely no intention in the EFT that I was doing that was trying to force anything to happen. Simply an opening to see, to look more deeply and more widely than you had before, to see if there isn't some evidence there that's real. We're not trying to create a reality, we're trying to see reality, knowing full well that we don't see reality perfectly. We see it through the lens of our perception. This approach is what I call MasterHEART EFT, and it's a key ingredient in the entire inner reconciliation training, which I hope you'll check out. So I hope you enjoyed that tapping. I hope it benefited you in some really great ways. And keep leaving comments and sharing and telling me what this did for you, and also giving me suggestions for new EFT videos. Thank you all. Namaste.